Hey everyone, I'm Tim.
And I'm the only Luddite in the Ozen world, Chris.
And welcome to the OSINT Output.
Welcome to the second in our series of what we're calling bonus episodes, which we're hoping will consistently consist of either interviews or just Tim and I rambling for an hour on whatever, or 45 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever makes sense.
Consistently consist of ramblings.
Yes. I mean, that's what the normal show consists of, but the bonus episodes won't have that same sort of focus. All right. So, in our last bonus episode, Tim interviewed me. So now it's my turn to give Tim the opportunity to talk more, which I know everyone's been asking for.
And for all transparency's sake, this will be take two because the first one I was kind of disappointed. Chris didn't really ask me about OSINT. And I was like,
I did. You just chose not to talk about it.
that's not true at all.
So,
Did talk
I mean,
about my background though.
it's not like it recorded. Like, we can't go back to the tape. So,
I mean, I did summarize it over here.
This is where we're at now. You didn't summarize it. You used AI for that.
Yeah, I summarized it for him.
Yeah. All right. So let's start off simple. Are you in favor of insurance plans on your phone?
Only because I have two kids who have needed to use it before. And then also I'm just a naturally clumsy individual. Like Chris has actually made fun of me before because my mom came over and she actually fell down an entire hill. And he just looked at me and said, your family has to be the clumsiest family I've ever seen.
That is the same hill that Tim fell down. And at some point, 3 out of the 5 members in this house were all limping on the same leg at the same time. And it was just incredible to watch. They were the stumps for a good, week and a half. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Like, I intentionally invited them out the stuff I wouldn't have normally, just to watch them all hobble in through the door.
Yeah, and that's where he learned the word schadenfreude from me. Now he probably uses that every single day in his brain.
So, how many times have you broken your current phone since you're a big fan of the insurance policies?
Just once. And then I got a beefier case from it.
All right.
I was not happy about it because the previous case I had like a slimmer profile, and that one, didn't have a cover over the hinge because I have a folding phone, and so it landed right on the hinge. Whole inside went black.
In my day, we'd call that a flip phone. Is that not a flip phone?
This is a foldable because it doesn't flip to that type of mode. It actually makes it goes to a 4:3 ratio.
It's got a hinge and it goes from smaller to bigger when you open it up.
I feel like the term flip has a more aggressive connotation to it whenever the action is performed. Like you flip it open.
Yeah.
This one you fold it open like you'd fold a book open. You don't flip a book open. You flip a book open, you're gonna rip something. You can't do that with this one.
But like you flip through pages.
Yeah, and then ultimately, yeah, that's more aggressive action. Like you can't do that with my phone.
I mean, you can if you don't care about keeping your phone, but
I do.
But you have insurance, so it doesn't matter.
Only for 2 years.
All right. So, let's talk about your background before we get into any of the other stuff. Tell me about what certifications or education that you have.
So as far as education goes, I started going through college and then I started going on a lot of deployments. I actually tried to do it while I was deployed and they actually moved me from base to base so many times and have access to an unclassified system. So ultimately I just dropped out of my degree. But I was pursuing a bachelor of arts in intelligence studies with a focus on counterterrorism. Almost done with that. I just got to re-enroll. And then I also have a few certifications. The Army gave me an OSINT certification, right? From the U.S. government gave me that. And then I also have a few crypto certifications that I've achieved recently.
What's a crypto certification?
So this is actually from Chainalysis, and they're an industry recognized certification now. It's cryptocurrency fundamentals, and then also you get a certification in their tool. It's called Reactor. Was more difficult than actually getting the fundamentals to crypto certification because it got really in depth about some of their data during the training.
So data is important in the crypto world.
The way that they structured it, yes. The way that they structured it, yeah.
I would think all of it is data, so it's all important. But
data is information, right?
Yeah. All right. So other than the crypto certification, what other certs do you have? Do you have any instructor certification?
Yeah, I do have. I've been certified to instruct from the Army. Um, and then also I did receive back in the day, but it's expired now. Certified DoD All Source Analyst, and that's just it's really just a huge introductory to the intelligence community, specifically the Defense Intelligence Enterprise, the DI. So I got that back in the day. It's expired now though. I got it conferred. Didn't get a chance to renew it. Got out of the military.
All right. So I have two follow-up questions for your instructorness, instructing of courses. One, how weird is it, like when you run into people who recognize you, but you have no idea who they are, and they're like, "Man, I took your class. This was awesome," and you're like, "I've never seen you before in my life."
Yeah. So for that question, I taught a lot of courses remotely, so that does happen more often than not. Uh, where I get an email and they're like, "Hey, I took your course. It was great," and I'm like, "Man, that's cool. Like, can I help you?" And it does happen, like, because I was working for an entire brigade of folks, and which is 1,000 people, right? And I would just be walking down the hallways or walking on the sidewalk at the facility, and they go, "Hey, man, really liked your course last year. It was great. Hopefully you're still teaching, or can you teach me anything new?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man, great to see you."
Send me an email.
Yeah. Or I give them my business card, and I'm like, "Hey, feel free to contact me." But yeah, it is even when I was deployed, because, we went from one station to another so much throughout the course of our careers that we'd run into people that we haven't seen since we were in the military together, right? Because people get out, they
Yeah.
go to be a contractor, or they just retire completely and start doing something else in a different career field entirely. And they would see me and go like, "Hey, Tim, how you doing?" And they look drastically different. They have a huge beard, or their their body
Dude,
morphed, right? Because no longer like
dude,
running 5 miles a day.
that military civilian transition is drastic.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely, mentally and physically, where you're just like, you're saying that I don't have to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning anymore, and, like, your body still wants you to do it, and you slowly get out of it. Like, it probably took me, I think, after my first deployment, it took me around 8 months for me to get out of that, and then I immediately went back into training and retrained my body again.
And
So,
this was Army, right? Because
y
like we've talked about.
yeah, Army deployment. My first deployment was to Kuwait, supporting the drawdown of Iraq.
Did you spend the summer there? That is,
I spent every single month there. We arrived there December, and then we left the January after next. So we
that
stayed the entire year
that is
there.
one of the warmest places I've existed.
You know what? I'm gonna use a word for it, especially during the rainy season. It gets very moist. And I'm not talking about like moist in the air, you get moist all over. I think the worst day, so the rainy season isn't bad. It usually gets pretty dry, but everything gets soaked. And like you would think, because the ground is so dry, it would be like, I need this water and soak it up. Nope. It just lays there and there's puddles everywhere. And then going into the extremely hot season, which is normal because it's north of the equator, so summer is from middle of June till about the middle of September, and it gets extremely hot,
It,
over 120 degrees Fahrenheit, and gets extremely humid.
when the wind blows, it's like a blow dryer on your eyeballs, man. It
So
is
if you
terrible.
if you're ever like, "Hey, I wonder what it's like to be in a desert when it's really hot," yeah, get a blow jar, get a handful of sand, and just throw it into it, and like just sit there and bask in it. That's all you
Just
need.
blow it into your
Oh,
face.
one thing I always forget to add is get a very bright light and shine it in your face at the same time.
Yes, yeah.
Like, because the sun is always
Consistent. It's dude, it's in your,
shining.
it's like I always thought it was like on the back of my neck all day. Just like chilling out on my shoulder.
Yeah,
Like a
luckily
parrot would.
the back of my neck never got it, but what really got it, and it's one of the reasons why I started tucking my ears inside of my PC, was the tips of my ears. They would get extremely dry. They never got sunburnt, but they get extremely dry.
Yeah.
And one thing I did to make sure that, I smelt better than I did, was I would always bring fruit from the DFAC,
And
especially
just
oranges, and I would peel it in my hat. So it would smell like oranges instead of just this nasty sweat, because it occurred every day.
dude, yeah, there's no way to get rid of the BO over there. Like
No.
not until you come back, and then it's like a week or two after you come back that you finally get that smell to dissipate.
One of the things that, I just read recently was people always become, nose deaf to the smells that are around them,
Yeah.
and the very first time Chris came over to my house, I can't remember exactly what it was, it may have been like we were cooking something that smelled great, or maybe Carolyn was cleaning, and I said, "Hey, I'm sorry about the smell," and he's like, "Dude, all I can smell is dog, so don't worry about it." Like, our entire house, when you come over, just smells like dog because we have a big old lab, he weighs 120 pounds, my best buddy in the world. And then we have a little old coonhound mix. He's more of a mutt than anything else, and they just both they stink.
They are all dog, 100%.
Yeah, they love each other, but they just we if we wanted to keep that smell away, we'd have to bathe them at least every other day, and there's just no way.
Twice an hour. That's the only way to get rid of it.
They got skunked a couple of times. Had to, get the tomato juice out, scrub them down with it.
Yeah. All right. And then the other instructor question is, who is your best student over all the courses?
Dude, that's such a hard question because I've always felt like I've had, like, really spectacular students. E Every other course, I usually had, like, a really great one. Can I just give instead of saying the best one, can I give, like, the type of student that I thought was
Yeah,
best?
yeah, go for that.
Okay. The type of student that I always thought was best, was the one who was, like, naturally curious and attentive and just wanted to make conversation rather than learn everything by rote.
Oh
So,
yeah.
the ones who, like, and it's not like somebody who is trying to be bothersome and ask questions, like, every 5 minutes because they don't understand it. It's like they'd rather ask about something to learn more about that specific topic rather than just trying to understand it by memorization.
So
So
the people that were engaged in both the material and the class.
and they also, this was a huge one, right? Because it always give out, like within government training, there isn't a whole lot of homework going on because you're expected to get everything done during the workday.
Yeah.
But when I was like, "Hey, if you guys wanna learn more about such and such, go and watch this video or read this little quick short story or whatever," and it teaches you more about that, even a training pamphlet. And the ones that actually went out and did that and came into class the next day and asked about it, those were the ones that I felt could go forward. And I always had coins with me and still do, and I always give those out. So if
Yeah.
I felt like a student did a really great job, I always give them a coin.
Did you ever have a student that showed such promise that they eventually became an instructor with you?
I've never actually had one where there was, like, so much promise that I was like, "You know what? They'd be a great instructor." It's kinda they just took it on as an
Oh,
as an extra step there.
ouch, my ego.
No, but for sure, Chris was one of those that we talked so much, and I already knew so much about just in general the trade craft together that I don't think he had to learn a whole much between both the courses that I taught. It was more about the fact that so not to toot Chris's horn too much, when you're so motivated and naturally curious and in general have an intelligence level above most of the people that you are with,
I disagree with that.
you just naturally pick up on things that you don't feel are important to learn, and that's one of the things I had to tell Chris about when we were instructing, especially about this podcast. We kind of piggyback off each other. I'll just look at him and I'll say, "Dude, what you're saying right now, you need to stop because you're just like you're up here at like number 12, and these people are still struggling with number 4, right?"
And by these people, he also means me. Yeah. I will say, like, one of the things that I enjoyed about your class is how passionate you felt about the material. Um, and then you taught me a lot of the techie lingo that I still refuse to use. So-
Need to. Like, it forces people like, one of the things that I say during my dark web class, because I do introduce a lot of, cybersecurity concepts that aren't native to OSINT that you just learn throughout the career, is just saying those terms and having people remember those. So even if they don't remember the definition or how to put it into practice, if somebody else brings it up and they're like, "Oh, yeah, I remember the OSI model," they're like, "Oh, I remember this dark web course where Tim talked about that." And then they at least they have familiarity with the terms that it goes hand in hand with the structure of networking.
What's OSI?
Uh, what is that? Open systems interconnection.
Open
Open systems interconnection.
open systems interconnection.
Yep.
All right, there you go. So now we know what OSI. All
Yeah.
right. Well, since you started talking about it, what's your current job? What do you do? Who do you do it for?
Who do you do it for? Um, Currently, I am the training lead for the Dark Blue Intelligence Group. We um, develop and provide services for dark web exploitation and collection, and our primary product is Dark Blue Intelligence Suite. And I provide training not only for that platform, but also dark web and OSINT in general. So I've been at this job now going on about 2.5 years. And it's been really fun. I mostly work remote. I would say my position is more hybrid than the rest of them in the company because I do travel more often than a lot of other people that work either in development and in some cases customer success.
As a and I've experienced this too. So as a remote instructor, how weird is it that you're the only face that the class ever sees because no one turns their cameras on?
I've started, right before I left the army, I started making it mandatory for people to turn their cameras on for that because I always want to remind people, like, hey, this does make it easier and more convenient for people to attend training. But at the end of the day, we're still people who have interaction. But it is super weird because I'm constantly talking to myself the entire time.
Yeah, and I mean the difference between teaching in a classroom where everyone's in the same room and you can see face to face and you get all that crosstalk. You don't really get that on the remote. I mean, sometimes you'll get that in the chat, but I think that not being able to see faces because it's hard to know if you're understood unless you see an expression on someone's face or the opposite, like when you see their eyes glaze over and they just start drifting off, counting ceiling tiles, you can go, "Oh, I need to dial everything back and re-engage the course."
Yeah, that like nonverbal communication during a training course is one of the most paramount things in the entire world because when you get into like really large classes, especially professors who have 50, 70, 100 students, naturally you can't get everybody's attention during that course because it's probably going to be a mandatory course that's required,
Yeah.
right? So then you're of course grading by student participation rather than student attention, which is different. But for courses like ours where we have between 5, 10, 15, 20 students, you can naturally see while you're instructing, like, okay, this person is picking up on this. And one of the things that I don't mind at all, that I think a lot of maybe other instructors do, is if people fall asleep in my course because I'm just sitting there and I know that some of the content can get quite dry in some cases. But if they happen to fall asleep, that's when I know like I have to shift gears and do something a little bit more active. And then also, I'm not their supervisor, so they have to report back what they didn't learn during that module of instruction, right? Not trying to be a truly petty individual when it comes to that. It's just, if you're there to learn, and especially if it's a paid course, like you actually shilled out money for it,
Yeah.
you should probably want to pay attention and learn more about it.
We've all been in some sort of training or education environment where it's just not working for us that day. So then when you go back to report what you did, you just bring the agenda and went, look, this is everything we talked about. I thought this was pretty cool. I think the instructor was terrible at this part of it, whether or not you know.
Yeah, this past week I actually had a class with one student because about 6 other people canceled on me. So I was supposed to have a class of between 5 to 9 people, and all those other individuals canceled on me. And I knew that the one participant had already made travel plans, and I didn't want to be that guy to say, "Hey, got to cancel all those,"
Yeah.
especially because he's providing services to the government, and the U.S. government's under turmoil right now with the budget trying to be passed and finalized. Well, as of 2 weeks ago, so that's kind of been solved on Friday, Saturday. But yeah, I didn't want to cancel on one dude when he had already had all these plans for a couple of months now.
That dude got the best training possible because there's nothing better for an instructor than just one-on-one know-how.
Yeah, and unfortunately, one of the biggest things about it is, like, I design my courses to be interactive. Like, I expect communication, I expect involvement in some exercises. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to give that individual a full 7 to 9 hour day that they'd normally expect.
Yeah, that full engagement
E
from the other folks,
Exactly.
yeah.
So, he got out early every single day.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in that situation, I could see that uh, that person can't think of every possible question, so there is probably something they're missing out from the classroom environment.
Yeah, and I tried to remember, the things that people would ask in those scenarios.
And just answer everyone else's questions from the past.
Yeah, be like, "Oh, I remember they asked this one," and I would
Yeah,
bring it up. I was like, "Hey, one of the common things I get asked about blah blah blah,"
yeah.
and he would just be like, "Okay, I didn't ask that, but thank you."
Steve in 2023 once asked me.
Steve.
All right. So before we get on to the personal stuff, I got two more job related questions, although not necessarily job related. One, what's your favorite thing about OSINT? And then two, what's the coolest thing or the best thing that you've ever found on the dark web?
My best thing, my most favorite thing about OSINT, is actually a common trait among a lot of people that practice it over a short period of time. Is the fact that I can find almost anything and share it with anyone. Like, that is my most favorite thing about OSINT because with a lot of the other information that we work with, it could be very difficult to provide it to someone because of the nature of how it was collected
Yep.
or the sensitivity of the information that we found, right? But with OSINT, because I found it in an environment where it's publicly available, meaning that as long as you're not breaking any laws to get to it, is like the most basic way I can say it, you can share it to anyone. So there's a saying that a lot of open source organizations have where it says acquire once, share broadly. And I truly believe in that. And your second question was about the dark web, the coolest thing I found there. Um, I'll give you two things that I found about the dark web. Number one, everybody thinks that it's this place that is naturally going to be um, full of illicit, illegal, nefarious content.
Well, I mean, it's there.
It's also available on the regular web as well. I mean, I could bring you to websites right now where illegal activities are happening all the time. But my very first foray, my very first thing I ever found, and that was like the most craziest, inventive, or the coolest thing I ever found. But the very first thing I found on the dark web was from a link directory and it was on Tor, and I clicked on it, and I didn't know where I was going to go at all because that's one of the other hallmarks about going to websites on the dark web is even though it has a description on there, you don't really know if it's the
It's
right thing unless you've been there before.
way different than the ClearNet where you're supposed to know where you're going before you get there.
Yeah, so descriptions can be intentionally misleading. I clicked on it, and the very first thing that loaded was a starry sky, and then from the left side, I saw a face of a unicorn poke out on the side of a monitor screen, and then it just shot across, and it was farting rainbows.
That that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah,
And
that's
is that where you got your desktop saver at? Like that's his lock screen.
um, but that's the very first thing. By far, the coolest thing that I ever found on the dark web, and it wasn't just me. This is actually like a group effort. I found a series of leaked documents that provided information about Iran's nuclear efforts from 2016 to 2022.
Oh, nice.
And
That's
it's completely free. Anybody could go and get it if they wanted it. And we found it, and it was spectacular because a lot of the things that we had kind of assessed about who they were working with, we no longer had to assess at that point. We had legitimate communications from one country to another talking about nuclear enrichment conferences they were attending, TTPs, tactic, techniques, and procedures that were being shared, assistance in nuclear facilities that were being built. So that's one of the coolest things I've ever found. And of course, there's consistent data leaks on the dark web, and some of their stuff you'll probably find is like people's personal information. But I hate going down that rabbit hole
oh
because
yeah,
people
yeah.
change their stuff all the time, and it infringes on personals and civil liberties. So I just let everybody else deal with that.
So you got to look at who all the scientists are that are working for Iran.
Actually, it wasn't directly the scientists, it was all the spokesmen. So,
Oh.
and that's actually better because like one of the things you have to drill down into is getting past all the propaganda bullcrap and going into what are people actually trying to do? What are the words, right,
Yeah.
behind what they're actually saying? What's the intent behind what they're actually trying to make you believe? And that's one of Chris's favorite things to do. We're going to have an episode about that where it's about source validation, validity, verification, making sure that the information we're collecting is not only coming from a legitimate source,
Well,
but it's also true.
it's either accurate and true, or you present it with the uncertainty that you have in the validity of the information.
Yeah. So even though you get information that's never been verified and the source has never reported before, doesn't mean that information can't be used to support some type of requirement, operation, or a decision maker can use it.
Answer an RFI.
Exactly. So, yeah, when it comes to all that stuff, I didn't see a whole lot in that one about what the scientists were talking about to each
Mhm.
other. It was a spokesman for the agencies.
Could you then take those spokesmen and then dive into their personal networks, not on the dark web? You could take that, plug them into Google, and see what you can find.
A lot of them had LinkedIn profiles.
Oh, well, that makes it easier. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah, so it was real easy just to do a quick Google search and then was able to find their LinkedIn profiles. And of course, some of them had publications at major universities, so I was able to find out their background and experience doing that as well.
nice. All right. So now we've talked about your job. Let's pour into your personal life a little bit, but keep it on the surface level.
You can go as deep as you want. I'm an open book.
You've told me that before. All right, let's
My depths know no end, Chris.
tell me about your social media prowess.
I use social media. I wouldn't say that I'm on the level of a person who specializes in social media collection, but I do understand a lot about it. So my favorite social media that I use right now is going to be Reddit. I'm a doom scroller on there every single day. And my second favorite that I love just for OSINT communities now is Discord.
What's your favorite subreddit?
My favorite subreddit is because I'm on it so much now is r/onions. Oh, and you would think when you go to it, like it's just full of onions, but it's talking about onions on the dark web, and you get a mix of experiences on there, and it's great because you get the people who are just learning about Tor or have been away from it for a while, so they come back and ask about it, and you get those individuals who just want to be trolls and make everybody think that something bad is happening. So it's fun reading through all that and finding out where the disinformation lies. And then you also get brand new TTPs that are being discovered. For instance, there was a vulnerability in Tor browser recently because of the way, because of what they use Firefox to build it from, right? The basic source code for it. And there was a vulnerability that was found in older versions of the extension for NoScript,
Yeah.
and it would force websites not to depict information correctly or allow content that was meant to be blocked to be seen or viewed. And so you have to, if you haven't updated Tor browser in the last week, you definitely need to do it because there's some vulnerabilities associated with NoScript
Oh, nice. So there you go. There's your security update for this episode.
for
And
Tor
then,
browser.
and then you get people like me who just go on to r/onions to post pictures of onions.
Yeah.
I love onions, dude.
And that's like the biggest Easter egg on there when you find one. They're like, you just go on, and it's some of the most upvoted posts, by the way. And I think that's the reason why they get upvoted because of that. But other social media that I have, I do have a Facebook. I think I started posting too much political content on there after the last presidential election. I've lost a few friends for sure. I use Imager. Recently went viral because of a post from Britain.
British comedy show.
Yeah, 8 out of 10 Cats does Countdown. Spectacular episode. I've gotten to a lot of British television watching over the past few years. And then I also use Blue Sky, mainly for work stuff. And then I do have a LinkedIn that I'm fairly active on.
Nice. All right. So what's your favorite non-technical thing?
Honestly, just playing video games.
That's
Like-
that's
That's not technical at all. Like, because like,
all right. Let me rephrase it. What's your favorite non-technological thing?
oh, something that's, well, ooh, that's hard to get into. I think my favorite one right now, I don't know. Like everything centers around like using technology in my life. I don't really go out and play any sports. Haven't done that in a while because I have a various malady of injuries that prevent me from
That's
being.
because you're clumsy and your whole family is.
And you
too.
know, I would expect that over a decade of military service also messed up my body as well.
Well, yeah. That
Um,
happens to all of us.
but recently it's just talking to people. I've been to a lot of conferences recently where I get to meet either like-minded people or people who need their problem solved.
Yeah.
So that's actually been really fantastic.
Well, you play D&D, right? That's non-technological
I,
based. That's all imagination, man.
actually, you're sitting there saying it's non-technological based. I'm actually going to switch over entirely to a tech solution because um, one way I've been doing it is just again, you can just use pen and paper for the entire thing. You
Yeah.
don't, as long as you have the guys to help you out, then you just use pen and paper for the entire thing. But I'm thinking about switching over because it makes it so much easier. You don't have to learn every single granular rule to make sure your players are having a good time because I'm a dungeon master. So that's been fun trying to teach my children and my wife how to play the game. And I'm hopefully we can get to an encounter or two where I let them be the dungeon master so they get to stretch their imagination as well. Because a dungeon master is just a storyteller.
All right. What's your favorite? Well, I mean, you kind of mentioned it already. You like playing video games. That's like your favorite pastime.
Yeah.
All right, tell us about that. What got you started into it? What kept you attracted other than the nature of the design of video games?
So what got me very first in a video game, it's been an obsession, literally an obsession since I was 2 or 3 years old. I saw someone playing a video. I can't remember if it was in my family or a friend, and I went over and played it, and I just fell in love with it. And the very first system that I got was a Sega Genesis.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So Sonic, it's my favorite go-to game. There was actually a game that McDonald's created that was one of the hardest games I ever played. If I can find the name of it, I'll definitely share it with you guys. But and then also, I didn't get a whole lot of RPGs back in the day, but RPGs are my favorite genre. And then I got Super Nintendo. I was a Gen 2 guy, right? So I didn't have the original NES. I did play the Atari back in the day, but that's when I got older. And now I'm mostly a PC gamer. Do have the Switch.
What kind of games do you like to play?
I like rich storytelling, so anything that has that is really, really awesome. I love action adventure games, mostly platformers, but my go-to have always been role-playing games where
Role
you
playing.
get where you get the chance to take the place of somebody and navigate yourself through their adventure, and then there's a lot of random encounters and elements in that where you have to navigate through, so it's consistent discovery and, really fun.
Right. How do you feel about Mario, man? Based on the look of your office.
All this stuff in here in my office, they are all presents because I still love, all old school Nintendo. When I say old school Nintendo now, I can go back to Pokemon. So when Pokemon came out, I became a huge fan. I played every single main entry, in the series, and I get a bunch of that. And then with Mario, yeah, I played every single main entry in that series as well. And then let's see here, Legend of Zelda too, for sure. I would say Legend of Zelda is the one where I'm eagerly anticipating whenever a new game gets released every single time. With the other ones, I can wait, right? With Pokemon, Mario, even some other series, I can kind of wait, right? But when it comes to Legend of Zelda, I have to get it the day it drops.
And that's all of those games. That's not all the main installments for that. You like all the side ones.
Yeah, so for a lot of I think, yeah, I played every single entry in the Legend of Zelda games except for the ones that were released for, oh God, what was it? Was it the 3DO? I think they were released for. And those weren't developed by Nintendo, and they were absolutely terrible. I gotta look that up.
All right. Well, while you're looking that up, the McDonald's game was Treasure Land Adventure.
No, that
No,
wasn't it.
that's
No,
not it.
no, yeah. Oh, it was. Yeah, it was for the Legend of Zelda games. It wasn't the 3DO. It was the Philips Interactive Media published it for. Oh God, what's this called? Yeah, for CDI, and they were 3 games that were absolutely terrible, and those are the 3 I've never played. I could probably emulate them if I want to, but I've never played those. But yeah, let me look up that game. So the game that I played for Sega, it was called Mick and Mac as the Global Gladiators, and you're going around and you're shooting a bunch of stuff with your slime guns, and it was one of the hardest games I ever played. Oh wow, Tommy Tallarico composed the music for it. That dude's awesome. Tommy Tallarico is he's the mind behind Video Games Live, where they tour around the world and have local symphonies and orchestras play video game music for their crowds. I really, really want to go to that.
Ah, all right. Well, we've learned a lot more about some very obscure video games that no one remembers.
I remember them.
You
That's all
you
that's important in this interview,
you,
Chris.
you did mention Sega Genesis, and my favorite game on there, which you did not mention, Earthworm Jim, dude. Like you didn't get down with it.
You should play Global Gladiators instead.
You didn't get down with Earthworm Jim, man.
I think I played Earthworm Jim 1 and 2 on the Sega Genesis.
You didn't
Well,
mention it. Didn't impact you at all, man.
Didn't need to. Don't need to talk about those. It's all right. If I want to whip a worm at someone, I'll do it some other ways.
All right, so let's talk about some of your hobbies then. So we talked about video games. I know you like to practice lock picking.
Yep.
You've taken some certified ethical hacker courses. Like tell me about some of that stuff. Like what gets you into that? What drives you to learn more?
Honestly, it's because I feel like I just need to know as much as I can. And while there are naturally hobbies that I need, or excuse me, there are naturally hobbies that I enjoy where I want to learn more about no matter what. For when it comes to some of the internet stuff, in OSINT, it isn't naturally because I'm drawn to it. It's just because I'm an instructor in it, and there's a lot of times where an instructor is viewed as the subject matter expert for a lot of material.
For everything.
Yes. So if it's part of your curriculum, you should at least have some base knowledge in helping your students understand it, or at least a pathway to help them learn more
Or if it's adjacent to your curriculum. Like you get a lot of those tangent questions.
all the time. Yeah. So it's always beneficial to learn as much as you can and at least have knowledge available to impart, even if you're not able to satisfy their requirement or their question. So, yeah. And then lock picking, and this goes hand in hand with, I guess, code breaking as well, and understanding how computers work. Same thing can be said for locks. There's a very specific way in which you have to approach a lock to get it unlocked because not every single one's the same. They all have their different combinations, but the basic techniques you need to learn are going to be the same for almost every single lock that you encounter, especially for ones that have standard standard pins and a core. So
I will say Tim told me that he got into or wanted to learn about lock picking because I had asked him to go to my house to let my
Mhm.
dogs out, and someone, unbeknownst to me, had locked the wrong door that Tim was supposed to enter, and he couldn't get in. And he told me, he's like, I was sitting there staring at that lock. He's like, I could pick that. So after he explained that to me, and he started learning about lock picking, and he follows the lock picking lawyer on YouTube fairly regularly. I changed the locks on my door, so Tim could not, in fact, pick my lock, or at least to make it harder for him.
Yeah, and when it comes to
I changed the whole handle, the whole apparatus.
when it comes to gaining entry to otherwise denied content, which is hacking, pen testing, physical security in general, like understanding that you don't necessarily have to get past the lock. You just have to get past whatever is preventing you entry. So whatever barrier is there, right? So to get past that specific barrier where I couldn't gain access to Chris's house regularly, he did install an electronic lock. and,
He-
now I don't have to pick it at all.
He now has access
Yeah, now I just
on a regular. Yeah.
put in a code. So
All right. So we're gonna wrap up with a few more questions, and these are gonna get deeper. Right. So,
going deep with Chris Saint Germain.
what do you feel, or why do you feel that technology and all of its advancements are the greatest things to ever happen to humans?
I don't know that if they're truly the best things to ever happen to humans because, there are some technological advancements that have made our lives more difficult for certain peoples, right? For example, the Amish community. They're like,
They're not a technological advancement. They're like, that's a group of people.
yeah, exactly. No, I'm trying to say like made it harder for certain groups of people. That's what I was
Yeah.
trying to get at. So, the Amish, for instance, they don't use anything really. Well, certain sects of the Amish, right? Depends on who you are. They don't really use any devices that are connected to any electricity, right? So it would make their lives extremely difficult if all of a sudden, I don't know, real estate records were never available in paper format. How can they prove they own their land?
That would be a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's which is one of the things when we talk about cryptocurrency, like people believe that blockchain can be a solution to storage problems. I'm vehemently against that. So technology in general, just the basic definition of it, it's doing or making something that improves the quality of life for humans as an entire race.
Theoretically.
It's supposed to. Exactly, right? For example, one of the earliest examples of technology that you can ever think of is the fact that we had a stick and then we sharpened that stick and made it into a spear.
Yeah.
It made it easier for us to hunt our food.
Yeah. I would say the two industries that have advanced technology the most in human history, one is like the military industrial complex, and the other is
Porn.
porn. Yeah, absolutely. Those two industries have done everything to advance technology and technological
And
advances.
they're kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum, in my opinion. The military industrial complex, it's seeking advances in technology and will fund people to find those.
Yeah.
Whereas porn, they find new technology and they begin
It's
implementing it before everyone else.
one of the reasons the internet's so popular today.
Mhm. Finding that content that you need whenever you need it.
Yeah. All right. And then the next deep question is, what's one thing that you would tell your past self about your life right now? And what's one thing you would tell your future self about your life right now?
In the past, for sure, I would tell my younger self, try not to worry so much about what people think of you. Because while their opinion of you can influence how you go about your life and what career you may take or what choices you can make, um, I think self-worth is more important. So your ability in yourself to believe that you're able to do something is more important than than someone else's perception that you're able to do whatever they think you should be able to do. So always trust yourself and always believe that you're able to accomplish something. Whether it's to the degree that someone else does, that doesn't matter. As long as you were better than the person you were yesterday, that's always going to be a success in my book. That's what I tell my kids.
So to continually seek daily improvement with yourself, not against the world or any of that.
Yeah. One of the things I like to say, because I've gotten slowly out of physical fitness as I've gotten older, especially after the military, is when I do something, I'm like, man, I remember when I could run like 12 miles and just enjoy it, you know?
Yeah.
And now when I take a 2-mile walk, I'm like, I can't wait to get back home and find some chips to eat, right? But I just think about the fact that there are potentially other people out there who are just sitting on the couch, not doing anything. Then I also think about yesterday when I didn't do anything either. I was like, well, I'm better than the Tim yesterday who didn't do that. So
I would have told myself to be born rich. All right. So what would you tell your future self?
be born rich, don't live in a car, right? My future self, on going hand in hand with physical fitness, definitely, I hope that you've taken care of your body.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of, and this just goes naturally with my genetics. There's a lot of individuals in my family who passed away before they were, I want to say 50, which would be lying, before they were 45,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it just goes with our culture, where we're from. Honestly, when you have to work like my parents did, like my family did, working 10, 12-hour days, 6 to 7 days a week, because I'm from a coal mining town. That's just naturally what happened. And then even as you've gotten better and moved on past that, some of that still is ingrained with you. I would tell my future self for sure. Hopefully that you've taken care of yourself over the years, and then also that you've taken care of your family as well. I would love to see myself in 20 years still having a relationship with my wife and my kids.
That's beautiful. All right. And then the very last question. Have you ever passed a Turing test?
Yes. Yeah, so that's honestly the every human should be able to pass a Turing
I
test.
know, but I've had questions about you, so I'm asking you specifically. Like, you have to tell me it's entrapment if you're a robot and you don't like, and I ask you, you'll tell me.
Well, if the three laws of robotics, right? I if it prevents harm to another human, I am allowed to lie to you. So I pass a Turing test.
The fact that you know that is a problem, right? Is it programmed?
If you've read Isaac Asimov, you know the three laws of robotics.
Why is that tattooed on your wrist though? Like that?
You know, don't worry about that barcode, okay? Don't worry about that barcode. All right, thanks for listening to us this week, guys. But be sure to check out our socials in the description. And this was the Yosin output by Tim and Chris.
Chris and Tim. I think the tagline for this episode: "Moist all over."
That was a great little segue.